My wife and I saved for 9 years to buy my grandparents' old house. During the family cookout, my sister suddenly claimed that I promised to let her live there. My 27-year-old wife, 30-year-old daughter, and I recently closed on our dream home, and the family is torn. My grandparents had the family home for many years, but when they died unexpectedly, leaving us with a large medical bill and expenditures, we were forced to sell it. It was terrible and tragic, and as a tiny girl, I resolved that one day I would buy the house back. I shared my dreams with my sister. I met my wife when I was 18, and she was 21. Her parents owned a tiny rental property and allowed her to live there rent-free, only paying for expenses. She encouraged me to live with her a year into our relationship, and we married a year later. I told her about my desire to own my grandparents' house, and she wholeheartedly supported me. We began saving enormous sums of money for a down payment in the hopes that the house would not go on the market before we could afford it. We were able to save a significant amount of money because we did not pay rent and had good jobs for our ages and the economy in which we lived. My in-laws also offered us $75,000 as a down payment, and we put back approximately $185,000. About 20 years after my grandparents died, their house was relisted at a high price. The house itself is massive, with 6 bedrooms, a vast lakefront estate, and a variety of amenities such as a pool and small guest house. We knew this house would be expensive, so we scrimped and saved for 9 years to finance my dream home. My sister was also house hunting at the time, but on a much smaller budget. School debt, and have rented for numerous years, and have not been able to save money in the same way that my wife and I have. When our grandparents' house appeared on the market, I shared the link to my sister and told her that we were finally reuniting the family. She was quite excited and stated so, and that was that. My wife and I pushed forward, meeting with the owners and real estate agents, having the property inspected, and making an offer. We were ecstatic when they said yes. Throughout the entire process, my sister expressed her excitement to have the house back in the family. How great it will be for her children to know and grow up in this house, just as she and I did. Our grandparents' house was where we celebrated every birthday, holiday, meeting, and reunion, and my wife and I intended to do it that way again. This is why what my sister said did not raise any warning flags. It's strange that she phrased it that way, but it's not a cause for alarm. We had a cookout at my parents' place to commemorate the final closing of our home. During dinner, my mill volunteered to kennel our dogs while we were in the process of moving to make things easier and safer for them, which prompted my sister to speak out. She questioned why our dogs needed to be watched when the real issue was her children. My wife inquired what she meant, and she replied that her children would require more supervision than our dogs, and she was perplexed as to why we would be so busy that our dogs would require monitoring. I explained to her that I was the one who was puzzled. I had no idea she was helping us move, and that if her children couldn't be left to their own devices, she didn't need to help us pack. My sister asked why my wife and I would be packing. I told her the obvious: we just closed on a house. For the sake of length, I'll skip most of the back and forth, but here's the gist. My sister assumed we were buying the house to either rent it out to her family or B, transfer the title to her name and have her pay us back on time. Yes, it was exactly what she was thinking, despite the fact that we had never discussed such a topic. My sister had a fuss when I told her that was not going to happen. She was enraged since this was her dream, too. And it wasn't fair that just one of us could experience it. That, because she had children, they deserved to grow up in the family house, and what exactly did my wife and I need all that space for? My wife informed her that it is no longer the family home. It was not left in a will. We bought it, and it is now our home. And we determined what to do with it. My sister advised my wife to stop up and that she had no say in the family debate. I told my sister that if she spoke to my wife like that again, we would no longer be in contact with her. That she cannot assume we are providing her a house and then throw a hissy fit when she is put in her place. And we departed. My in-laws discussed the situation with us several times, but they all agreed that we were correct and that my sister was acting inappropriately. I expected everyone would agree. But if they did, I would not be reading this discussion. My parents sent me texts and voicemails stating we were acting inappropriately and threatening my sister. They told me they were disappointed in me for taking away my sister's dream, and that because I don't have children, I can't comprehend or desire to provide them with a decent home in childhood like she did. That it is only fair that we devise a plan to give her the house, and that we can afford to locate something else. Even my more distant relatives have commented that we were cruel to take that away from her. I'm honestly astonished and taken aback. Entitled individuals believe they should inherit their ancestors' homes, but I never planned to live there. This feels odd, and I'm sorry that we're starting this new chapter on such a negative one. Edit. Wow. This exploded in such a short period of time. Thank you for your support. Assuming this remains fascinating and does not fizzle out, I will keep you updated. Unfortunately, this is a true case, and in case you're inquisitive, Yes, the house is large and luxurious, but it is horribly outdated. As a result, in today's housing market, size and features do not always correspond to price. Like, I don't think any owners after my grandparents renovated anything. I am also a woman, LOL. I can't read or answer to all of these comments, but thank you. I will continue to report, although not much has transpired since my last post yesterday morning. I'll add a little more on what has happened since the barbecue. I haven't reacted to any remarks left by my relatives. I honestly didn't think this was such a huge thing, but after browsing through the comments with my wife for a bit, we're both taking it much more seriously. A security system is not a possibility at this time. The house need too much maintenance at the time to have cameras and such installed. They'd be in the way of getting everything else done, so we'd have to have them removed for a few of the tasks. We don't even have internet access on the site at the moment. I'll schedule meetings with various companies to get them to come out and work on the property before we get into the cosmetics. However, on Thursday, someone will come out to change the locks. We won't be moving into the house for a while, because it need a lot of maintenance before we can be comfortable. A few people have suggested that the tale is false because the house's price does not match its attributes. The house requires a lot of maintenance. It hasn't been updated or worked on in years, so the pricing reflects that. Furthermore, we are fortunate to live in a state where property values have not increased too dramatically. Comments. Lurker78, info, how much did the house cost with a down payment of over $200,000? NTA, however, you made your first error by sharing the listing with your sister. Oop, the house was little more than $800,000, but the down payment was just around $100,000. The remainder was spent on closing charges, moving expenses, and upgrades/updates. It had a highly unsafe deck that appeared to have been done by the homeowners and needed to be entirely demolished and rebuilt. Oop replies to getting a will in place for the house in case she and her wife pass away. This prevents her relatives from fighting over the property's legal rights. Oop, honestly, I never considered this. I always figured wills and trusts were sufficient, but this is a frightening possibility. Thank you, and I will strongly consider this. Update 2 July 30th, 2024. Thank you to everyone who has been so supportive and offered advice. To those who proposed installing a security system, we will do so, but the house is not in a location where one can be installed. For the time being, we're looking into buying some battery-powered trail cameras. As suggested by one Redditor, I can't find your comment in the sea anymore, but you know who you are, so we don't have to worry about internet access, and they won't interfere with renovations. We are restoring the property to its full magnificence, including pre-carpeted bathrooms and mismatched wallpaper. Aside from replacing broken items and upgrading outdated appliances, we'll be redoing the floors, painting, wallpapering, installing new windows, and opening up some unneeded walls. For the next 2 weeks, my wife and I will be meeting with contractors who will be working on electrical, plumbing, and a few other items, as well as having a consultation with a home security business. Along with cameras, we want to purchase alarms and door codes and install an entry gate around the property. One of those that requires either a passcode or being let in by someone in the house. We have already scheduled a lock change and are not concerned about my family squatting there. My in-laws have enabled us to park their camper trailer on the property while work is being done, not only for peace of mind, but also to prevent commuting back and forth several times per day. For the actual update, I was hesitant to write this update because it came so quickly after my original article, but I believe enough has happened for it to be important information. The barbecue took place last week, but I only got around to blogging about it yesterday. Yesterday evening, I sent a message to my parents and siblings, asking them to meet to talk things out and figure out what's wrong and what the hell is going on. Before my sister came, my wife and I had met my parents and my brother's family at his house. I informed them that if they tried to interrupt or control the conversation, we would leave. I told them that I had never suggested that my sister be permitted to rent or buy the house from us. That you had no idea where she got the idea, and showed them the text strings where I originally sent her the listing in. Every discussion where I updated her on the status. My mother demanded to see the rest of the conversations concerning the house, and I informed her that there were none. She informed me that my sister informed them all that my wife and I had agreed to buy it, and then rent it out to my wife's relatives until they could afford to buy it. That we'd reside in the guest house while they got the main house. She told them that we had reneged on our agreement, shattering her ambitions of raising her children in the house where she grew up. We presented our side, and it was not difficult to persuade my parents that we were telling the truth. With my sister's lack of evidence and no legal documentation, my parents did not even attempt to back up what she told them. My parents apologized profusely and assured us that if they had known the truth, they would never have said such things to us, and that they fully backed us. My brother was also supportive of us, but he was never one of those who harassed us about it, so his reaction is less essential. Around that time, my sister and her husband arrived. My Bill is a doormat and will give my sister anything she wants, so I wasn't expecting much from him. I asked her to present any documentation that would prove I informed her we'd rent out the house to her, that her deception was ill-conceived and that she should have a strong reason. She attempted to claim that I had erased the communication, but when she was unable to produce the messages, her tale fell apart. She began crying, saying it wasn't right that we were given everything, that we didn't need such a large house, and that we were rubbing our money in her face. So from what I understand, she thought she could manipulate everyone into pushing us into renting out our house to her? I suppose. Like a fucked-up Scooby-Doo villain? Instead of employing ghosts to scare us away, she uses a bogus rental agreement that she didn't even bother to make look or sound legitimate. We told her that she needed to apologize a lot before we could contemplate having a relationship with her again, and that she would not be welcome in our home for a long time. We currently have a poor connection with my parents for obvious reasons. They informed us that they are available to assist us with relocation or remodeling, but it will require some careful consideration to determine whether we are comfortable with this. We will not give anyone in my family a spare key, but my wife's parents will receive one in case of need. The property won't be in a state to host guests for a while, so we're going to cross the "can my family be trusted at home" bridge when the time comes. To address some common questions raised in the comments. My sister clearly has some loose screws, but my parents don't coddle her. She's what you'd call the golden kid and the baby. But most of her actions up to this point were either one-upmanship or a need for more parental attention. She's dramatic, entitled, and a little selfish, but she's never gone this mad before. Yes, we will obtain a security system, but not for a while. No, I will not trust my family with a key. Yes, I am a woman. I know it's odd how two ladies can get married, lol. My wife and I do not have children and will not have them in the future. My sister has done some strange things, but nothing as stupid as this. We'll be meeting with an estate planner to get everything in writing. We intend to leave the property to my niece and her children, with my mill serving as the executor of our estate for the time being. My sister and her family are renting a little house in town. They are not necessarily struggling. They are both college graduates, with decent careers, but having children is expensive, and when you throw in school debt and $2,000 per month in rent, you aren't exactly living the dream. Also, a surprising number of individuals are upset with my wife and me because we are wealthy. We aren't affluent. My in-laws are comfortable and generous enough to let us stay in their rental free of charge. They acquired a new house decades ago and did not sell their old one, so they let my wife live there. The down payment was from my wife's college money from several years ago. Her parents invested money in it, but when she opted to pursue a trade, they kept the money and saved it particularly for a down payment. When we told them the house was for sale, they eventually offered the college fund they had saved for her. We worked well-paying jobs but were able to save a lot of money since we didn't have to pay $2,000 per month for housing. We did skimp and save, and we certainly earned it. We lived below our means for years, foregoing any form of luxury in order to buy what we desired. So it was not as dramatic as many people had hoped or expected. I don't think this is the end of it. But for the time being, my wife and I are focusing on our new house rather than my sister. She is barred on both of our phones as of this morning, and I am not sure when I will unblock her. Comments. True_1593. Leaving it to your own devices is insane labor. Are you closer to your SIL than your sister? Oop, the sister that tried to mislead, intimidate, and pressure us into giving up the house we just bought, turning my entire family against us? And my sister is my wife's sibling, so certainly, she is as close to us as my sister. My sister had just done a trick. Ladder syllabub 5560, and I would have gotten away with the home if it hadn't been for those pesky lesbians. Okay, this one got me. Every day, gal. NTA, your sister is delusional, and has created a mental narrative in which she believes she is owed or entitled to certain privileges. Your parents are insane for supporting that story with her. You deserve credit for standing up for your wife and refusing to tolerate disrespect. Live at Western 7133, NTA. Never offer your parents or sister a spare key or the door code. Ever. Moving on to the next story. Story 2. My ex's new wife requested my daughter to call her mother. When I talked to my daughter, I discovered a heartbreaking secret that changed everything. I, 27F, and my ex, 26, have a 6-year-old daughter together. Things were not working for us, so we split up last year and opted to co-parent. We both had custody. He got married a few months ago, and I have no negative thoughts for him or his wife. He is an excellent father. But his wife is going around stating that not only did she become a wife, but she also received a bonus daughter. Last week, my daughter was with her father, and I read his WhatsApp status. In a video, she asked my daughter to call her mother and said how much she resembled her and how others assumed she was her birth mother. Without hesitation, I called my daughter's father. I was angry, so I fought with him and asked him to return my kid to me, and I don't regret it, although everyone thinks I'm overreacting. Okay, maybe I am, but I can't see my daughter calling anyone else her mother. She was urging my daughter to call her mother when she was uncomfortable. I don't dislike her, and I don't want my child to hate her either. I want them to have a cordial relationship in which they can trust each other and be comfortable in each other's presence. Edit 2. Thank you all for your responses. They mean a lot to me, and I appreciate them. I spoke with my daughter. Whenever I speak with her father, I will update you. Comments. Neen Nits. Bonus daughter is fine. Asking her to call her mother isn't. Help your daughter come up with a few of unique nicknames for her mother that no one else uses. Beer lies awake in 2023. She's insane if she believes that's even remotely acceptable. I have a stepson and can't image asking him to call me mom. Especially when his mom is, a fantastic and involved mother. My husband would not tolerate it either because we all have a nice relationship. And even though they did not work out, he still respects her as his son's mother. Update August 13th, 2024. I recently posted about how my ex's new wife asked my daughter to call her mother. First and foremost, I am truly grateful to you all. I assumed I was overreacting and planned to ignore the situation. I had a conversation with my 6-year-old daughter, and I'm shaking RN. Can you believe she believed I was going to abandon her? I was dumbfounded. I felt as if I had lost everything in my life. My wonderful kid, the light of my life, thinks I am about to leave her. I questioned her why she thinks that way, but she was insistent about not telling me. After seducing her, I discovered that her stepmother warned her that when I find a new spouse, I will leave her and start my own family. That woman even declared that only her father will be with her until the end. Is she insane? I informed my daughter that I had no aspirations to marry again, and that even if something like that happened, I would never leave her. She will always be my daughter. To be honest, my daughter is still apprehensive. She believes I will abandon her. I've taken a week off for myself and my daughter, and will be spending it with my parents. After the short holiday, I'll hire a counselor for her. I spoke with my lawyer, who stated we have evidence and he can help me seek full custody of my child. I have no intention of bringing my ex to court again, but if there is another event like this, I will not hesitate. Following this, I had to speak with my ex alone. I told him everything, even how our daughter feels, how his wife does not know her boundaries, and how he would react if I asked my daughter to call a strange man dad. He said he had no idea how things would turn out. He only left them alone for the sake of bonding. I have a sense he is lying. I made it obvious to him that I would not allow that woman anywhere near my daughter, and if he refuses, we can simply go to court. For the time being, we've decided he can meet our daughter at his parents' place, and after some time, if my daughter accepts, he can take her to his house. It is his obligation not to leave my child alone with that woman. I also spoke with that woman, who burst into tears and blamed everything on me, claiming that I am envious of her having my husband. Why would I be jealous of someone having my ex? I don't have the time or energy to waste on her petty issues. About that woman, I'd cry because she's doing all of this. I thought about it a lot and only came up with this. Apparently my ex-in-laws are against this wedding, so she's either trying to get on their good side through my daughter or she's insane. I simply want to make things right for my kid. I even found out that my child believes she is the reason for our divorce. And many of you mentioned he got married within a year, so maybe he was cheating, which he was. I recently learned about it, and to be honest, I don't want to confront him about it. I just want to leave him calmly, and without much drama in my life. Maybe someday I'll approach him and get the answers I'm seeking for, but for now, I just want to focus on myself and my daughter. Again, I am grateful to you all. I never imagined my daughter would think of something like this, and if it hadn't been for you, I would never have known. Connets. Jeepers, Creeper 74. You are not overreacting. You did everything correctly. Talk to your daughter, consult your lawyer, spend time with her, and arrange up therapy. Talking to your ex and devising a plan to safeguard your daughter from further alienation by her stepmother. Your ex sounds like a jerk in general, but at least he's ready to work with you for now. If his parents are against his new marriage, you should make sure ex-Mill is aware of the situation and the agreement you reached with your ex. The only thing I believe you could have done better was drive your ex to a vasectomy appointment, because Act 2 of this drama will take place when this woman has her own child with your ex and turns on your daughter. Oof. I spoke with his parents, who claimed they no longer care about this guy and only agreed to let him enter their home since he was going to meet their granddaughter there. Furthermore, I do not believe I can force him to have a vasectomy, but I hope they will accept responsibility if they do.